Hey everybody, we have a new sponsor and a special deal for our listeners of Karen Isn't Always Right. If you have any photos or documents that you need to scan, or videotapes, audio tapes, or film reels that you need to import, you should check out avgearguy.com. If you mention the name Karen Isn't Always Right when you order, you're going to get 5% off, and a portion of your order is going to help support the podcast Karen Isn't Always Right. All of those formats degrade over time and are sitting ducks in the case of fire or theft. Why not convert it all to digital? All your memories can be stored safely on the cloud or even a hard drive that fits in your pocket. AV Gear Guy has over 30 years of experience with all kinds of media, and they can accept orders from anywhere in the U.S. Don't forget to mention the name of Karen Isn't Always Right and get 5% off. For more details and to book, visit their website at avgearguy.com. That's avgearguy.com. Welcome to another episode of Karen Isn't Always Right. Today is a strange day because the coronavirus has escalated to the point where many people are out of work, and especially people in the service industry, not unlike myself, but really many other people. And I've been very lucky in that I've been able to hold on to my job for the time being, but there's just a lot of people out there that are really struggling. And so, for any of those of you who are in that position and are listening to this, my heart really goes out to you. So, it's a tough time, and hopefully we can all get through it. So, anyway, I hope that all of you that are listening get something from these podcasts, because I'd like to keep doing them. Sorry, I don't mean to get so emotional on this, but it's just I think really tough for everybody. And I just got back from the store, and there's nothing on the shelves, and I've never seen anything like this in my entire life. So hopefully we can all pull together and continue to make fun of the Karens of the world that make our life more difficult. But I do think that a lot of people are really coming together in this time, and I think that's a really cool thing. So I'm going to continue to do this podcast even if there aren't difficult people out there, and we'll just talk about the service industry and customer service in general. So anyway, let's move into why we're here, and that's my next guest, who this guy's name is Jeff, and Jeff has actually become a very good friend of mine. And I really value his friendship, and this was a really fun conversation, and he's just a really good dude. And I think you'll see that as we have our conversation. I do want to just give you guys a heads up that this particular episode, I believe it was only the second that I recorded via Skype, and it was a rough one. We kept losing connection and having to restart, and there was a moment about halfway through where we completely lost the connection. And so just bear with me. I know that some of these, I know the production value on these aren't great, and for those of you who continue to listen, I really do appreciate that. So just bear with us as we get through this stuff, and don't mind the pops and hisses and all that junk that comes along with it. And really, I really appreciate everybody's support. So thank you very much, and keep listening, and share with your friends, please, and just everybody hang in there, and we'll get through this. All right, so let's talk to Jeff. What's up, Jeff?
Hello.
How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing, Chris?
Good, man. Welcome to the show. I really appreciate you coming on. It's good to have you here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate being here.
Yeah.
Fred's here too, so.
Fred. Well, nobody can see Fred. We're only doing audio, but just so everybody knows what I'm looking at is there's a stormtrooper pointing a gun at Jeff's head from behind, and it's a little intimidating to me too. So I'm going to try not to piss off Jeff or Fred. So welcome to the ride. So Jeff, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, let's see, I'm 48 years old, and I've been in the service industry since I was 17 years old. Well, actually, no, 16 years old. So at various places, everywhere I've worked was, with the exception of the Army, was in public service. So with the dealing with the public.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so currently you're in movie theaters, right?
Yep. Movie theaters right now.
Okay.
I
What
worked
have you
at
done before?
I worked at a Wendy's for a while. I worked at an amusement park. I worked at a car wash. Delivered newspapers before I could get a job at 16 years old.
Yeah.
Done, do wedding videos and just deal with people in that regard every day,
Yeah.
Just a lot of different odds and ends stuff. I mean, the movie theater is the longest part of it.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
But
Same.
I've even worked at a gas station one time and for some months, and that was an eye opener.
Yeah.
Convenience store.
Did you do overnight shifts or was it the daytime?
Yeah, I did like the nighttime into the overnight.
Okay.
So and I still had the movie theater job actually at the same time.
Okay.
So I was working 3 jobs at one time. Like we all do at the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's you
I
gotta do
used
what
to
you gotta
the same thing. Yeah, man. I'd go from working like 6 to 2 at the movie theater. I'd turn around and wake up at 4:30 and go work at a golf course from like 5 to 1. And then on some days I would work at an Applebee's as a server and barback. And that was a miserable summer. It was just rough.
Yeah.
So, movie theaters is where it's at, man. Good, clean, indoor air conditioned work with no heavy lifting. So,
Well, what's funny though is you're right about that. It is, but there was one summer I worked at a Pizza Hut, along with the gas sheet in the movie theater, and then cut to 25 years later. What are we serving the theaters now? Pizza Hut.
Right, Pizza Hut. And you're getting paid the same. So
Yeah, right.
How did we meet?
We met through the movie theater. So, we work for the same company, and we have similar interests, I think. So
I'm not even sure who introduced us to each other, because you were with a different company, I think, that ended up getting acquired, right?
Yeah, but I was acquired at the same time Danny was. So I think it was Danny.
Yeah. That's probably the case. And then I just think we hit it off. I think we connected. So.
Oh yeah, I would have found you at some point.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I'm not exactly soft spoken, and I don't think you are.
Yeah, No.
So out of all these different customer service jobs, is there one in particular where that stands out to you that has kind of the most difficult type of guest or customer?
Well, the movie theater one's been the one I've done for 28 years. So that has
just by sheer volume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and over the years, it's like over the last 28 years, it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
Like every year it gets worse. So it just, because I'm still with that one versus the other ones, I would say, just by default, the movie theater ones.
Why do you think that is? Because this is a common theme over the past several people that I've talked with that has identified that. And one person, Danny, he's been doing this basically as long as you and I have. I've been doing this since '89, and I've seen it over the years, especially probably in the last 10 years. But then I even talked to a girl just a couple days ago who's only been in it 3 years, and she's even seen it just in the last 3 years get more challenging. What do you think the cause of that is?
I think the number one cause is social media, because everybody wants, this society that we're in now, everybody wants instant gratification. And you've seen me, I'll get on the social media and I'll look at what people are posting, and it's funny because some people are just like, hey, it's too hot in here. Well, you're posting on a company's Facebook page. They have no idea who you are, where you're at. They have like 400 buildings, and just that mindset, though, that they think that's going to get, right, exactly.
Yeah, just instantaneous, and
people are quick to be negative versus positive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's basically in our makeup and the human DNA. But I think the number one cause is the social media, because everybody wants that instant gratification. They want to complain. It's all about them versus anybody else. And before social media came along, we were talking to each other more. So people don't have that. Like you and I, we know how to deal with people. We've talked to people, but we didn't grow up on social media. Right. There's an entire generation now that's grown up on a phone and grown up on video games. Now, we had video games when we grew up. It was Atari. But
yeah, exactly. Watch a ball bounce around on a screen, yeah.
Yeah, right? What's wrong with that? But I think a lot of it is, now you got parents that, well, here, go play your game, and that's how they raise kids. Mm-hmm. So, you have being raised not really the way they should be being raised, and they don't know how to talk to people. They don't know how to deal with people, but they know how to get on their phone, and they know how to voice it on there.
Yeah. And it's easy for people to get aggressive, clickety-clack behind a keyboard anonymously or semi-anonymously, knowing that there's not going to be any kind of physical, not that there would be a physical altercation or anything, but they just know it's easy for them to just say whatever they want to say behind a keyboard as well. Right. And it can get a little bit more aggressive. It's funny because you mentioned the somebody posting something on Facebook and getting that and not getting that instant gratification that they're looking for. And I actually reinforced that mindset recently, or one of my managers did, because somebody filed a complaint through the corporate office, and then it came to us pretty much immediately, which is not common. And we got it very, very quickly, but the complaint was that their recliner wasn't working in their auditorium, right? And the really funny... Yeah, and the really funny thing was that there was two managers literally standing right next to this person in the auditorium while the movie was going, because it was a large format screen, and they were trying to check the presentation for a second because they had heard there might be a concern. So they were already in there. This guest had to have seen them, but instead they get on their phone during the movie, file this complaint through the corporate office. Well, it comes back to us immediately. I got notification of it on my phone, and so I wasn't there at the time. I immediately texted my senior manager, let her know, and she was like, "We were just in there." She's like, "Whatever," and she went in there, fixed the recliner, got it all resolved before I was even able to respond back to the complaint like we're supposed to do. It was really funny, but now they've got that mindset of well, I can just immediately complain. Although in my response to them, I was like, "Look, just let us know in person, and we'll be able to deal with it even faster." So.
Right. I've had a few of those too, and it's you want to scratch your head because you're like, are they that lazy to get up out of their seat, or are they just And I'm sure the movie probably wasn't even on yet in this situation.
Yeah, it was trailers. So.
Yeah, I mean, I've even had people call from the auditorium.
Oh yeah, we get that a lot. How about heat or air conditioning? Yeah. Turn the heat up. All right.
Right. Which I guess that's not an overwhelmingly huge problem, but I guess I might call too. I don't know. But the right comment, it's fun.
I think some of it probably does come down to laziness a little bit, and especially if the movie's going, they certainly don't want to miss any of their movie, and so it's just easier for them. The irony being that we have all these ads saying "stay off your phone." And we have my theater, most theaters do have theater checkers that are going in. Once every 20 minutes. It's that's part of the reason they're in there. Flag them down, say something to them, and
right.
Fix it. And that's probably one of my bigger irritations sometimes is when they file the complaint through the corporate office. It's like, man, I'm going to have to deal with this anyway. So can you just say something to us while you're there, as opposed to everybody above me in God's green earth seeing this complaint,
Right.
I just rather, not to mention, I'd just rather solve it in the moment. We'll be able to take care of it, and you can be on your way, and you'll be happier for it, as opposed to going home and stewing on this or whatever. So, so I love you brought up how you're on social media and you see some of these complaints come through on social media, and that's one of the things that I've mentioned this to you before. It stands out to me, and for those of you listening, what'll happen is it doesn't matter what company it is. Somebody will complain on that company's primary social media page about whatever it is, and Jeff is great about jumping in and really offering that guest some perspective on, well, look, this is probably what's going on, or or giving them advice. If you just do this or that, they'll be able to solve the problem for you. And I love that about you, because you're really proactive about it. Although it blows my mind, because I don't know how you have the time to do that or the patience, because honestly, if it were me, there are times I've seen that, and I've started typing underneath your comment my own comment, and then I'm like, I'm probably not going to do that. Where did that start, though? Like, what motivated you to do that?
Well, I was bored.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. I just started looking at other people's sites, and usually it's when I'm bored and I have moments of nothing to do, and I just get on there and I'm just curious what people are saying about that company, whether it's our company or somebody else's company, and I try to. I'm not trying to be some kind of keyboard justice warrior. That's not who I am.
Right.
I'm just trying to, like you said, offer them a little bit of insight. I'm not trying to beat them up or anything, but just trying to offer them a little bit of common sense. There was one recently, last night actually.
I saw that.
Post, and they posted to the company site, and they were trying to blame the company for something that clearly wasn't the company's fault. And then they actually replied back, and I replied back again.
Mm-hmm.
And in the reply back, they basically said it wasn't the company's fault, but yet the original post was you were blaming the company. Mm-hmm. So I was just a little taken back and scratching my head by this because I'm like,
very strange.
Yeah, it's like, did you just want to complain to somebody? And that's what I find too is people just want to be heard a lot. But I'm trying to give them a little bit of instant gratification, if you will, but maybe not the way they like it.
Yeah. Well, I think you do a really good job of framing it. I mean, you certainly don't. You're not aggressive about it all, and you're not so direct that you're calling anybody an asshat, and you're not even so indirect that you can frame things a certain way that you're basically telling them they're wrong. But you don't really do that either. Like, you just have a really subtle way of expressing what's going on and stuff like that. I thought last night's complaint was interesting because, at the end of it, they're like, well, somebody owes me gas money. This is the same one, right? So just to fill everybody in on what this complaint was, it was essentially, I don't know. Do you want to tell it? Because you have a better insight into it.
Well, okay. So basically, there's this website called Fandango you can buy movie tickets on, okay? It's separate from other movie theater sites like, the other movie theater companies. Yeah. And went to Fandango and had a gift card for Fandango, which you have to use on Fandango. But yet they were complaining on this movie site, the movie theater site, the head company site about, they were told from Fandango that wrong, but they were told from Fandango they could use this gift card at the theater, and the theater said, that she got there, that she drove 40 minutes, whatever, and they said, well, we can't accept this gift card, which is true, because it's like going to, you can't use a gift card from one business to another business because they're two separate businesses.
Right.
And so she wanted somebody to owe her gas money, and that was her original post. And so I just chimed in that, telling her that Fandango is who owes her the gas money. Without telling her she's wrong, just telling her, she could have read the card where it said this and whatever, and that's when she said that the guy at Fandango told her this, and I was like, well, he did tell you wrong, and she ended up admitting that.
Yeah.
But yet, so she wasted her time and essentially my time, but I was bored anyway. But
well, it made for good reading for me, at least when I woke up this morning.
I try to be delicate with it, and there's a lot of times I'll see something on any of these sites, and I won't post anything. And there's a lot of times where I'll edit my comment 2 or 3 times before I post it. Because, I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to lose my job or anything for something I say. I'm not trying to answer for the companies. I'm just trying to help. I'm trying to help people that don't have the common sense to understand how the world works, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and I think, and I totally think you do. I think you do a great job of it because, honestly, if I didn't know you and didn't know who you worked for, I don't know that I would even know you actually worked for a theater. I certainly don't know what company you work for when I'm looking at that. But I really do think you do a great job of kind of pointing out, hey, look, this is just, like you said, pointing out how common sense works sometimes. Because I think sometimes people do just want to be heard, but they don't always think through what it is they might be upset about. Like this whole Fandango thing. I mean, look, I've worked for multiple companies. Fandango ain't a problem for just one of them. It's a problem for all of them, and they have there's a lot of positives about Fandango that they can offer people. But when it comes to the service side and the seamlessness between the company and them being a third party, I think they can create some more customer service issues than they don't, than they alleviate. Yeah. And that can be really frustrating sometimes. But guests don't get that. Guests don't realize that they're a third party company. They just think we're all one thing. And it's like, bro, we're not. I mean, it's like, I don't remember what the example was that you used, but it's like going to JCPenney with a Macy's card. It's like, it doesn't work that way, man. So.
Well, same with Google. Google, we get that a lot with Google. I'm sure you do when you work. And they come in, well, what website did you look at? The website's wrong. What website did you look at? I looked at your website. Oh, you looked at my website. So I go to my website. No, the times are right. No, I looked at your website. That's that. And then sometimes even if they're not on the phone, if they're with me, I have them come around to the counter and look at the computer. Yeah. That's not the website I was on, sir. Yeah. And I'll be on the company website. I'll be able to go, this is our website. Right. And then it will click in my head, and I'll go to Google, and it goes, is this what you looked at? And they're like, yeah, that's your website. That's not my website. Right. That's Google. Yeah. And I go, I can't control them. Because sometimes Google, especially in my location, they like to mess up a lot. Mm-hmm. They got it right for a while, but they were calling me the wrong theater name for a while. Oh, yeah.
There was a period of time there for a while for everybody where I don't remember what exactly happened, but man, it was jacked up. Yep. Like jacked up, causing so many problems. Theaters were closed or they were given the wrong directions or the wrong address, wrong showtime constantly. And, we try to train our customers, just go to our website. Like, you're just
easier said than done.
It really is. It really is. You have to train an entire city worth of customers sometimes on how to do something different. And nobody likes change. Yeah. Do you find it difficult sometimes when you're trying to educate someone, but you have to walk that really fine line of educating them and not making them feel stupid?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
That's super hard for me. And even before the internet, and just trying to help somebody look at a Showtime phone on the newspaper. I had a situation about 25 years ago when I was only a manager for 3 or 4 years at this point, and we had the ads in the newspaper then. Mm-hmm. And they had sometimes where there were big ads with the phone number to the recording underneath the ad. And in this particular case, what was the number was. It was like the recording was, it would say the name of the theater, and then it would say some showtimes, and then underneath it would say for more information or recording, call, and I think it was 435-1137 or something like that. Well, I actually had a guy calling me, and he was quite pissed off because he showed up to my theater for the 435 show of his movie. And I said, well, we didn't have a 435 show that day. They only played in the evenings. They've been out a while, so it was a split, Mm-hmm. And I looked at other competitors, and nobody had a 435. And he goes, no, you had a 435. And he ended up coming up to me the next day, bringing the newspaper, asking for me, showed me in the newspaper where it said 435. What he was pointing at was the 435 of the phone number for the recording. And you have to... I wanted to just laugh. Right. That was my first thing. Inside, I'm laughing. I'm like, this guy, I don't know what's on or something, but you can't. And I had to sit there and politely explain to him and be patient with him again, and explain to him that it doesn't even say a film title there. It just says, it said recording, unless it's maybe
part of the fucking phone number.
Yeah. Right. So it's challenging. Even going back to before the internet, I don't have a lot of patience. Patience is something I've worked on my whole life. And
same.
I'm still continuing to work on.
Yeah.
And I don't have a lot of patience for people they can't figure out common sense.
Yeah.
We're all born with common sense. I just understand how you don't have it. That's just my take on humanity.
Yeah. Same. It's not so common. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think that's pretty funny. Back in the newspaper days, it's funny how often people would literally bring in the newspaper, and then sometimes I would have to be like, well, you're looking at the wrong day, you're looking at the wrong theater or whatever, and it really is tough to point out people's mistakes because you don't want to make them feel stupid because that just angers people because they're embarrassed. And that literally happened to me on Wednesday. So I broke my ankle recently, and so I do all the grocery shopping in my household, and I was like sitting there, and I was like, shit, man, I don't know how I'm gonna do the grocery shopping, hobbling around on crutches and stuff like that. And then I remembered that the grocery stores out here have the where you can order everything online and then go pick it up. And so I did that, and my son and I go and we pull into one of the parking spaces, and then they have a sign right when you pull in, and it says the number to call when you arrive, and they'll bring it out. So I called the number, and I get the front desk, which was weird because it didn't happen the time before. And I was like, I'm here to pick up my groceries. They're like, what? And I was like, I'm here to pick up my groceries. Like, oh, you mean the click thing or whatever? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, well, let me transfer you. So they transfer me, and then this other guy picks up, and I tell him, I'm like, wait. I said, I'm here picking up my groceries, and he goes, oh, okay. Well, you just next time just call the number that's on the sign. And that really, well, so hold on. So it really irritated me, and I looked up, and I was like, I did. I got a little snarky, And then he's like, okay, well, we'll be right out. We'll install you in or whatever. And I told him. And so I'm sitting there with my son, and then I looked at my phone. My phone was in a little holder on my dashboard. I look at my phone, and then I look at the number, and I misdialed the number by 2 numbers. I still managed to get the grocery store. So it was my fault, and I missed out. But I remember that sort of surge of irritation and anger when the guy pointed out that I was wrong. And if I'm doing that and I'm in the customer service industry, holy shit, how many, how people get, it's not surprising people get when they're not even in the service industry,
Right.
So I felt really stupid, and actually when the guy brought the groceries out, I told him, I was like, hey man, that's my bag. Can you pass that along? Because I feel pretty dumb. So not everybody's going to do that. Not everybody's going to admit their mistake or apologize or anything like that. So it's unfortunate.
But sometimes you have to tell them they're wrong. I mean, you try to do it with reverence and respect. But, if I was the guy, I would have been like, we called the wrong number. But if somebody comes in with the wrong listing in the paper, or they looked at the wrong, like in my case, there's a theater that the company was in the area long before we got taken over. So the name of that theater is very similar to what you would think our theater would be. So they mix this up all the time. Yeah. And you have to tell the customer that they're wrong in some cases, because they'll never learn if you don't. And the mistake just keeps repeating. And you try to be nice about it, but there are people, where they just escalate it. It's like, oh.
Yeah. So that segues into, sort of the title of the episode. So the Karens of the world, So when you think of a Karen, like what image does that evoke in your head?
To me, it's a person it can be male or female.
Right.
And it's a person that's probably a little bit younger than me, in their 30s.
Karen is.
Yeah. Okay, so we had some technical difficulty there. That was my fault. Sorry. Technology is great until it doesn't. But a Karen. So in my view, a Karen can be a male or female, and it's usually around somebody in their 30s, because I haven't seen any of them that are older than me, and I'm 48. Mm-hmm. So that's just where I get my I don't know, my opinion of them, I guess.
Yeah.
But most of the ones I've dealt with are younger than I am, and they're usually in their late 30s. And it can be anyone, really. I mean, somebody that just comes in and thinks that they're super entitled to everything in the world, even if they're not. And again, you want to try to take care of everybody to the best of your ability, but at some point you got to draw a line, because for me, if you come up to me and you approach me, and we were in the wrong, and you're not, if you're pissed off, then I get it. But if we get past that stage where you're kind of calming down and you told me your story and I've listened, and you're still being a jerk, and even more so if you're cussing at me or just being belligerent or whatever, then I'm more apt not to give you anything. I'm not going to even give you my time of day. I'm just going to tell you where the door is.
Sure.
But if you come at me hot, basically, and I give you that time to calm down, because I get it, you're pissed off, you're wrong, whatever. But I give you that couple minutes to hear you out and calm down, and you still want to be like that, then we can't have a conversation, because you're just, you're totally blown up. But if you come at me, after that period of time, or even at the start, you come at me nice or whatever, even if you're the one in the wrong, if you're nice about it, I'll give you the world.
Yeah.
It's all about how you approach it and how you, and again, this gets back to people don't know how to have those interactions because they've been on social media and they live on social media. And I think the term came from Karen because a lot of people think it's a lot of females, but mostly you see it more in female than you do in male. Mm-hmm. Males just want to go off to the corner where the wife takes care of the situation I've found.
Yeah.
It's totally went off on me. And she was right to go off on me. There was a situation that we didn't help, but it ended up being our fault. I was trying to help. And her husband was annoyed that she was going off, and he just kind of walked away.
Yeah, I've had a lot of those where guys like look embarrassed, as their wife is losing her shit.
Right.
Yeah.
So that to me is like basically caring.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just throwing this in here. This is the other reason they're playing around like this is because, in my opinion, the Karens of the world are the ones that created the participation trophies. Uh-huh. So that tells you everything you need to know about that character.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, I think that's kind of in line with what I'm hearing from everybody else, and pretty much what caused the meme, the Karen meme itself to go viral, or the I want to speak to a manager haircut. If you Google that, there's a very specific look to at least the female Karens. Somebody recently referred to the male version as Darren, but yeah. But yeah, it's sort of the soccer mom participation trophy mentality that really started. I saw it really starting in like the early 2000s, and really took off as the 2000s progressed. And yeah, that like you said, know-it-all, self-entitled, self-absorbed, I'm right about everything kind of unreasonable attitude. And you said it very well in that, like, look, if you come at me a certain way, I understand being upset. I understand getting pissed off. But there is a way to approach things, just like with anything, not just in customer service when you're upset about something at a store, but just in life in general. And I think if you approach, the whole get more bees with honey sort of approach, so where do you find the balance where you are going to say, okay, I'm willing to help you, even though you're yelling at me and stuff like that, or I'm going to tell this person to go pound sand? Like, where do you determine where that cutoff is?
Well, again, it's either how they approach it or how they, after they calm down a little bit from where they think they're wronged. I mean, if you state me your argument and I listen, and then you kind of calm down and we can have that dialogue, I'll still take care of you. Or if you're in the wrong, I'll tell you where maybe you went wrong and how to prevent happening again, but I might still take care of you. But if you continue to just be, belligerent and high and mighty and just treat me like I'm the help or my staff or whatever, like I'm your butler or something, then I'm just going to be like, thank you for the feedback, and we have nothing left to say. And I can't imagine doing that to somebody. I wouldn't go and I hardly ever complain on it. I can count on one hand how many times in my 48 years I've complained on a situation in a business. And it's like 3 times. And those 3 times I felt I was wrong. But there's a lot that has to happen before I go complain. And if I do complain, I go straight to the source, not go to the corporate or whatever. It's just because I want to get a result. I don't want to sit there and just get on my keyboard and whatever. Yeah. So, back to your question, if you come at me with a respectable attitude or calm down and talk to me like a person, I'll give you anything you want.
Yeah. Yeah. Danny and I were talking the other day about this, and he calls me soft. And Danny could be hardcore sometimes. But I usually
he calls me Captain Squishy. So
all right, we're on the same team then. I always look at it two different ways. There's yelling and cussing, and then there's yelling and cussing at me or at my team or something like that. And so, like, I'll train my team to identify which one is which. It's like, look, if you're just yelling and you're cussing, you're just mad. You're trying to vent off that anger, and I'll basically let somebody calm down a little bit. But if you're yelling and screaming at me, or if you're yelling and screaming at my employees or managers, then they get a warning. It's like, look, we're happy to help, but we got to calm down on the language. We got to calm down in general. Once everybody's calmed down, we can move forward. But you don't get to swear at me. You don't get to tell me to go fuck myself or my mother or whatever you just told me to do. So let's calm it down. And then,
Down?
what's that?
Do you actually use those words, calm down? I tried to.
No. Yeah. Have you ever told your wife to calm down or girlfriend to calm down? You know how that goes, right?
Calming down doesn't happen.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. So I'm trying to think of in the moment how I actually phrase it. I think, hey, look, I want to help and I just want to de-escalate this situation. And some version of that. What do you say?
I usually say, look, we need to talk, and right now you're at this level where we can't speak because you just want to keep cussing at me, and that needs to stop so we can have a dialogue. If that doesn't stop, then we're going to be done with this conversation. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like saying calm down without saying calm down, because usually those are words.
Yeah. Especially in today's day and age, I think, where, at least in my experience, people tend to get really, really upset really, really quickly and easily. I mean, like, I have to, and for a while I was thinking it's just the town that I'm in. And it just seems like a relatively sensitive town by nature. And so I train all my people. I was like, you got to be really, really careful about your tone. You need to be really, really careful about your body language, because people will misperceive you so quickly. And like, you know how it is, like, you're just trying to enforce a policy, and we all have policies that we don't necessarily agree with, but we have to enforce anyway. And a guest is upset about that. And it's like, well, look, I've got to do this. And then they complain, and then the complaint isn't really about the enforcement of the policy. What is the complaint usually about?
It's about how you told them no.
Yeah, and you were rude about it. Yeah, exactly.
Say the policy ones are easy, because it's like, hey, look, I'm just doing my job. I'm sorry, but this is the job, But yeah, then the complaint comes in, well, that manager. I'm like, I was not nice to you. I just told you no, you didn't like that.
Yeah. So. I mean, I got like 5 witnesses. I'll usually, like, when my managers are dealing with an escalated situation, they go in buddies. They have buddies with them, because I like to make sure that they've got each other's back, and not necessarily teaming up on the guest, but just to have somebody, and they don't even necessarily have to be right next to each other. Maybe the other hangs back a little bit, just in the general vicinity, just to really corroborate the situation. And it's not our goal to say, well, the customer is wrong, but it just seems like more often than not nowadays, these situations can just escalate beyond what they really need to. And I have to make sure that my people are backed up. It makes it easier for me also to have, not that I don't have their back, but it just makes it easier for me to definitively have their back if it goes to through corporate, and then I have to answer to people and things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, what I do is I'll back them up physically with me. So I'm, for your listeners, I'm 6'5", 375 pounds, military trained. I'm a giant. I'm a Shrek.
He's a big dude. I say you're a big dude for sure.
Yeah. So I'll walk out of the office, and I'll hear my manager getting bombarded, and I'll just get right behind him, almost like not like an enforcer from a gangster movie, but I'll just stand behind him and listen, and then I'll interject when I need to interject. But usually that tends to calm them down, because I'm taller than anybody else in the building. And then they usually calm down, because they think I'm trying to be an enforcer, even though I'm not. I'm just standing there and listening, waiting for my chief to interject and maybe help them out a little bit more than my assistant could do.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny in a way, but the number one thing I found, and it took me years to realize this, I've only recently realized this in the last 2 years, to disarm someone, like a Karen, And it doesn't always work, but I'll sit there and listen to you. And then if they just keep going on and yelling and screaming after we've had that discussion of, we need to have a dialogue with these words. Sometimes I'll smile. And it confuses me because they're like, is he mocking me? Or is he smiling because he's psycho and he's going to do something? Or what the heck's going on? Maybe I should change my tone because I don't know what the hell's going on with this guy.
Yeah, and for real.
It's sad to say, but it works about 70% of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I do the same thing. Yeah, I'll walk out when, if they call for me specifically too, but as I'm walking down the hall, I will physically make a conscious effort to put a smile on my face. And then as I walk up, I try to be super friendly. Hey, how are you today? My name's Christopher. I understand that there was a concern, but I have that smile. And I try not to make it a Joker type smile like I'm psychotic or anything, but definitely use it to disarm them a little bit. So that brings up the thought. So I was telling that exact anecdote in a different podcast that I was doing solo, and the primary focus of that episode was anxiety and the anxiety that sometimes that I feel in dealing with escalated guest situations, or that others feel, and things like that. Is that ever something that you deal with or struggle with at all, as the anxiety of dealing with the Karens of the world?
Every last one of them.
Yeah.
Okay? And if anybody tells you different, they're lying to you.
Yeah.
I dread having to go out there and or go up to them and take care of the situation. Now I do it because I soldier on, and that's who we are. That's the job. But that doesn't mean I don't have anxiety. And it's especially if you get the email and they want a phone call, and I call them back. Those are the worst. And some of them, nothing could happen to them. But just the fact that you have to sit there and take time out and call them, and sometimes you're playing phone tag, and depending on the situation, it just keeps escalating, and it goes another day where you couldn't get a hold of them because you're playing phone tag, and then the anxiety goes up even more. Eventually you get through to them, and it's not as bad as you thought it was, or it is. But every last one of them, it's, there's a little bit of anxiety there because it's confrontation. And I know how to deal with confrontation, and I've dealt with it many times, but I don't like to deal with it. So
yeah, it's crazy because I mean, you just sat here and told us you're 6'5", you're a big guy, and you were in the military and things like that, and even you deal with it. I deal with it too. I mean, look, man, I'm a black belt in martial arts. Physically, I know I can handle myself, and yet I struggle with the anxiety of it as well. And that episode that I was telling you about was a really personal episode to me. And as I was talking, I mean, I think I talked for about an hour about that subject in general. The only thing I could continue to think about is when I post this episode, there's going to be people out there that's like, Fry's a bitch, Fry can't handle this or whatever. But the more people I talk to, and even someone just like yourself, and hear that even they struggle with the anxiety that's associated with this, it's sort of mind-blowing, because it's like, at the end of the day, like for the most part, what's the worst that's really going to happen? Especially if it's phone, do a lobby or whatever, and I know I'm just in my brain will just play different scenarios, and I've had some pretty heated exchanges with guests, but 97% of the time it all works out, right? But yet we still get this anxiety. Is there anything in particular that you do personally that helps mitigate that anxiety, or how you kind of overcome it as you're dealing with the situation?
Well, it's every situation. It's hard not to take it personally, because I'm the leader of the building. We're taught to run the building like you own it, even though we don't. I take my job very seriously. I have pride in my job. I have pride in my building. And when someone comes after you like that, it feels like a personal attack, even though it's not. And it's sometimes hard to get through that it's not a personal attack. And I'll deal with the situation with the Karen, and then I'll come back to the office, and I may rant and rave a little bit, and just kind of get it out of my system and move on. And sometimes it will stick with me for a day or two, and then I love riding motorcycles, so I'll get on my motorcycle and I'll forget all about it.
Yeah.
That's kind of my PTSD stress relief.
Yeah. Yeah, we all have our own stress relievers for sure. Yeah, I think venting sometimes is helpful, although, like my whole focus for like the last year and a half, 2 years has been to really focus on the positive. But sometimes, man, you deal with those totally unreasonable people and it's just like your head wants to explode if you don't release it somehow. And, I don't know about you, but I consider my office kind of a safe space. And so, I'll let my managers come in if they need to vent it off a little bit. And we try not to focus on it too long. We'll give it a few minutes and just, whatever. And we're not sitting there. It's not the idea isn't to sit there and just trash a customer, but it's like, look, I mean, that was totally unreasonable. Like I was in a situation yesterday. I was sitting at a coffee shop. I was actually working on podcast stuff, and this lady walks in with the coffee already, and I had remembered her bringing her coffee and leaving, and then she comes back in, slams the coffee cup down on the counter in front of this girl, and was like, "You can have this." And the girl was like kind of shocked, and the woman was like, "I don't need your snarkiness." And I remember talking to the girl when I bought my own coffee, and she has a very thick, what sounded like a rough. And I mean, so there was no reason to be, and this woman completely blew it out of proportion, and slammed it down. And then the girl was like trying to explain. She's like, I'm not doing it. And the woman was like, "You just save it," and stormed out, like slammed the door open and stormed out of there. And I'm over here like anxious about it. Although on her way out, I said something. I was like, "Yo, that was out of line." And she just ignored me. But, so I just think it's not uncommon for anybody like that to cause anxiety in other people, because I think it's the unreasonable nature of it, where it's like, how did we go 0 to 60 in 1.3 seconds over something so trivial? You know what I mean?
Right. But it's great that you came to the help of that barista.
Because I try.
I'm just enjoying my meal or my drink or whatever, and somebody wants to be. It's almost. In those situations, I don't have anxiety because I'm not the boss.
Right.
So I kind of enjoy jumping in when somebody's getting berated like that, because I know how it feels. Mm-hmm. And people come in entitled, and they think that the help is the help, and that's how they treat you. Now, this isn't every customer, but the majority of them do feel that way. So, I kind of, those situations, though, I don't feel anxiety because I'm not the boss. I don't have anything to answer to the guy upstairs at that point in time.
So that brings up an interesting point. Do you think that there's, and look, I love the company we work for. I don't really have any major issues, but sometimes the customer service aspect, I feel like we're put in a pickle sometimes, because it's like, well, you have the ability to solve all problems, do what you need to do, and yet there's other times when it's like, well, you need to do everything you can to make the customer happy, but we have policies to enforce, and so we're kind of put into this tough spot sometimes. And then if let's say the complaint about something, that really didn't go wrong, I guess, says you were rude or you did something or whatever, it goes to corporate, you have to respond to it. You're pretty much in the right, but you have to go through all of these hoops to defend yourself but still make the customer happy. Do you think that your anxiety kind of stems from like being put in that like tight spot with little wiggle room, and then having to satisfy a guest and having to satisfy your boss and kind of keep yourself out of hot water while making everybody happy?
Oh, totally. It totally does. Because you, like you said, you have to take care of the guys as best you can, but at the same time, you have to follow the policy. So you're the guy in the middle, you're the gray area, and if anything happens, you're going to get it from both sides. And I've been in this situation. And up until like 2 or 3 years ago, if somebody said, well, I'm going to call corporate, I used to kind of cringe. And that used to scare me, but it doesn't scare me anymore. And now it's like when they say, well, I'm going to call corporate, and I'm like, well, here's how you spell my name.
What changed?
Back longer than that. I think it was when we got bought by, in 2009, I was with National Amusements, and then Rave Cinemas bought us in 2009. And I think at that point in time, that's when that went away, because Rave started sending all the complaints to me. They didn't even care about it. So I got to answer all the complaints versus the previous company that, I would probably get in trouble or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think at that point in time, it was like, well, here's how you spell my name. And not that I'm worried about getting fired or something, but you do have that added pressure. And the company I'm with now, they do a great job of sending us the complaints too. But every once in a while, they'll question you on something.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of, like you said, defend yourself a little bit. And it's like, you're just scratching your head because it's like, well, I just followed the policy that you wanted me to follow.
Yeah.
And I followed it to the letter. And if I didn't and something bad happened, then I would get yelled at on that for not following the policy.
Sure. Yeah.
Talk to because this person thinks I was rude because of the way I followed the policy. And really, I'm just telling them no and pointing to the side.
Yep.
So
the problem is, though,
it's a catch-22.
Yeah, and the problem is that the guest isn't always completely truthful. They either minimize their own behavior or emphasize or exaggerate your behavior and attitude or whatever to make themselves look good, make you look bad, to emphasize why they're complaining or whatever. And that can be super frustrating because it's like, good Lord, if you were just honest about the situation, we could just handle it. We could just resolve this and we can all move on. So there was something else I was gonna. I remember. Yeah, I would say things have changed over the last few years too. Because I remember back in the day with the current company, you didn't get those corporate office complaints. They were all emailed to you, and they usually only came across on Mondays. So they'd sit on these for a week, or they'd come through over the weekend or whatever. And man, when you come in Monday morning and you open up your email and there's that knot in your stomach going, oh, because there was one woman in the corporate office that handled all of these, and she was super, super nice, and I'm sure it was just a terrible job, but she was the one that you'd get those emails from, and if you saw her name, you're like, oh, fuck my life,
Very much
and then.
true.
Yeah, because your boss gets copied and stuff like that. And look, I don't remember who yours is, but I have a great, great boss, and I love the guy. And he is super cool about stuff. Like, I've never really been worried about, losing my job or anything. But I do report to the guy, and he does have questions sometimes, and he still has that mindset of like, well, if you don't solve the problem, I'm going to, and then there's a conversation about it. Which
I got a similar boss. He's great. He lets me run things the way I need to run things, but if there's no animosity between us, like some bosses have, so that's great.
Yeah. Well, hey man, we're up on an hour, believe it or not. I know you were concerned that we would have trouble filling the time, but believe it or not, we didn't even get through half the shit that we could have talked about. So I think we're gonna wrap this up, and I really appreciate you coming on, man. It was really a pleasure talking with you. I thought it was great. So.
Oh, me too. Thanks for asking me. My first podcast, so you broke my cherry, I guess.
Right on. Happy to do it. All right. Well, good talking to you, man, and we'll talk to you later.
All right.
Thanks, Jeff.
Guests and hosts and are not representative of any other organizations or individuals. If you or someone you know are interested in being a guest on Karen Isn't Always Right, please give us a visit at kiarpodcast.com and submit your interest on the Contact Us page, as we'd love to have you. Thanks for joining us on Karen Isn't Always Right, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.